And we are live. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Drummers Education Network. Here we are with our next installment of our Drummers Roundtable, which we're providing about once a week. My name's Jeremy Steinkohler. With me is Chip Ritter.
Hi, guys.
Rick Stojak.
Hey, everybody.
And Bart Robley.
Howdy. How's everybody doing?
Between us, we've got over 200 years of drumming experience, and we're here to share that with you, along with all sorts of other stuff about drumming and teaching and performing and inspiration and motivation. And we're just wanting to provide content that is useful to other drummers and drum instructors. And one of the things we're doing is we're interviewing guests every month. We're going to have drummers come in and talk about what they're doing and how they're dealing with COVID and what they're doing with their teaching. And we thought, well, you know what? We've got 4 drummers right here who are really incredible musicians and dedicated teachers. And we'd like to start by getting to know ourselves a little bit better also. And so our guest this month is Bart Robley. So, yeah, the
Yay,
one.
Bart! Woohoo!
Man, for those of you who don't know him, Bart is a super amazing drummer and a dedicated and passionate teacher. He endorses Gretsch drums, symphonic percussion drums, Aquarian drum heads, Sabian cymbals, Gibraltar hardware, Vic Firth drumsticks, Trick bass drum pedals, the Kelly Shoe kickport, Gorilla Snot, and Hal Leonard Publishing. Just in case you were wondering about how established and respected this guy is. He's got stuff going on all different levels all over the drumming industry. He's a really great guy and a great drummer. So Bart, we're happy to talk to you today and find out more about you.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Yeah, Bart is also, correct me if I'm wrong, Bart, your main project right now is the Sam Morrison Band, or it was until COVID shut gigging down, right?
We're still, we're working on actually 2 albums right now. So yeah, that's like the main project. I've been in that band for 21 years. So yeah.
Wow.
Very long time.
So tell us some more about your experience with that band. How'd you get that gig and what's it been like for you? How's it affected your career?
It's been, well, the way I got the gig, I want to start with this. As you said, Jeremy, that, letting people in, kind of look behind the curtain. The way this whole thing started with us has just been awesome. Chip kind of started the ball rolling, and I respect the 3 of you guys so much, and just being part of this is huge. And when we decided, hey, we want to interview and get to know each other for the people that are watching, and you guys said you wanted to interview me first, I was like, wow, I really appreciate that. So to you guys, thank you. And to anybody watching this thing, like I said, I got a ton of respect for these 3 gentlemen, amazing drummers, educators, authors, everything. It's great being a part of this. So thank you guys. In regards to how I got in the Sam Morrison Band, I had been playing, I'd been in California for a number of years. I moved out here in 1989 from Colorado. And I'd been playing the club scene and did the whole Sunset Strip thing and everything like that, doing the heavy metal bands and everything like that. Was in 2 bands out here that I moved. The first band that I moved to California to join, a band called Blue Max. They were kind of like kind of an artsy heavy metal band. It wasn't necessarily a prog rock band, but it was kind of like, we didn't know if we wanted to be Queensryche or if we wanted to be Dokken.
Bart, did you have super long hair?
Oh, dude, I actually had hair once. I actually had hair. It was, I had hair. I'll find a picture and I'll post it on the den. I had hair that was like the color of this camera. It was this color. It was down to my butt, man. It was down past my ass. Sorry, didn't mean to say ass. Way down there. I had a lot of long hair. And did that whole thing. Studied with a lot of amazing drummers out here during that time to try to get my playing the best. Played with Blue Max, then got into a band called War Crime. That was kind of like a power trio thing. Did that. And when that was coming to an end, I kind of found in myself that I was a little bit burned out on playing heavy metal. Now, I don't want to get shot by heavy metal fans. I love metal. Like I still listen to it a lot and everything. But for me, it was one thing. It was really loud distorted guitar, really loud bass, and really loud drums, and a lot of fast double bass. And I love that, but I wanted to do more than that. I always I grew up in Colorado listening to a lot of country music. My mom did. I got started playing music from listening to Elvis, and my first concert was Elvis. And so hearing, yeah,
Wow.
there's
Wow,
where
that's a good start.
there comes there's the 200 years of drumming experience between us, right? But yeah, it was my first concert, and I I wanted more voices within a group, right? And when I say voices, of course I'm talking about the the human voice, singing voice, but I wanted to hear piano, I wanted Hammond, I wanted different kinds of guitar, I wanted mandolin and fiddle, and I really wanted to hear that because that's the stuff I grew up listening to. And so anyway, I'd met Sam and I had subbed for him on a couple of gigs. One of his drummers couldn't make it, and I kind of went into it reluctantly. Not that I didn't want to do it, but I mean, you guys know how it is. I mean, when you go into a gig, you want to make the other musicians around you happy. I mean, I could be playing in front of 10,000 people. That doesn't bother me. But I hope I'm making the bass player happy, and I hope I'm not driving the singers off the cliff.
Bart,
Right?
what year was that when you met Sam, and how did you meet Sam?
I met Sam in, well, it must have been 97 or 98.
Okay.
And this was back when I still was 97, 98, around there. I was still working at day jobs before I could make a living as a drummer, teaching and playing gigs and recording and stuff. I was working for a company called Orange County Speaker. And Sam had blown up some monitor speakers, and he brought them in for us to fix. And it just so happened that I waited on him. I helped him. And we just, you know how when you meet somebody, you just kind of know that that's the person, and I was just like, this guy's kind of cool. And we hit it off, and we stayed in touch. And he knew I was a drummer, and I subbed for him on those gigs. And after I subbed for him, we got along really good. And I did, coming off of metal, and his band was a country band at the time, and it was like the popular country of that era of the 90s. So a lot of,
and anybody watching this video can check out the sammorrisonband.com and learn more about the Sam Morrison Band too.
Oh yeah,
sammorrisonband.com.
sammorrisonband.com.
All kinds of music out there.
Yep. You could just Google it and it comes up. Really good stuff. I'm very proud to have been part of it for 21 years. That just doesn't happen,
Yeah.
And so, but that's how we met. And then,
Well, I just want to say, Bart, I got to jump in. I got to say that's a testament to you as a drummer and as a person and as a professional that you have a gig for 20 years, more than 20 years. I mean, most drummers don't last that long in gigs, and it's because they don't have the right attitude, or they don't have the skills, they don't have the personal skills. And, the fact that you've been in that band for a long time at that level of success and commercial notoriety, that's good power to you, man.
Well, thank you. And I do have to say that most of the people, people have come and gone in the band over the years, of course. But the majority of the people, when you're in the band, they've stayed for a long time, and they've stuck in there with it, The bass player and myself, Greg Kasparian. Greg, I say this quite often, and he hates it when I say it, but he truly is. Greg is the best person I've ever known in my life. This guy, his idea of a wild night is to have 2 cookies after the gig. He eats 2 whole cookies, eats them all the way, doesn't leave a crumb. He's one of the greatest people I've ever known in my life. Sam's a great guy. It's a good project. It's a lot of fun, and we've worked very hard at the band. But anyway, yeah, that's how. Well, and then finally, the way I got the gig, we were doing, when I did the sub gig, we were doing country music of that era, of the 90s. So like a lot of Travis Tritt, a lot of Garth Brooks, more and kind of Southern rock stuff. And he did a lot of the cool outlaw stuff that I grew up listening to, Waylon Jennings and Willie Nelson and all that sort of stuff. So that was a lot of fun. But I was coming from a metal background, playing heavy metal for a long time. So I had a lot of work to do. A lot of people were like, well, you had to tame it down. Well, No, man, because we also did a lot of Southern rock. We did a lot of Leonard Skinner, a lot of Allman Brothers. And man, if you know the Allman Brothers, that is a jazz band. I'm sorry, that's a jazz rock fusion band.
Yeah.
I had to really up my game. I did not step anything down. I
That's double
upped my
drummer
game.
stuff.
Oh, triple, man. The
Yeah.
three drummer, you know, because all the percussion, you know.
Yeah.
And so it was really I really stepped up my game, and I didn't get the gig. I did some sub things, and then he did this big show out in Arizona, Chip, where you are. I did this thing called Country Thunder, I think is what it was called, and he was the headliner that night was Leonard Skinner, and I mean, who's bigger in that world than Leonard Skinner? And I didn't play on that gig, but I did. There was a big club out here called the Crazy Horse, big country club out here, and they moved into a bigger venue called the Irvine Spectrum. And when they opened up in the Irvine Spectrum, we were the first band. So I was the first drummer to ever play on that stage.
Yeah.
And we opened to Diamond Rio. I don't know if you guys are familiar with them, but they were just monster country band, killer guitar players, just, you know, phenomenal stuff. And we opened to them on New Year's Eve of the millennium, so 99 to 2000.
Wow.
After that, I kind of put the cart in front of the horse. After that was the Country Thunder thing. I didn't get the gig. I was still just a sub at that time. And I was like, okay, it wasn't meant to be. It was, you know, I'll sub for the guy whenever he wants. One day I'm standing in my garage and he calls me up and he goes, hey, I got a gig. And he goes, my guitar player left and the drummer left. And he goes, I leave for Europe. And I think it was maybe a 3-week tour, 2-week tour. I don't remember exactly how long it was, but it was over in Europe, and we were playing all through the Balkans during that war. And so we played Hungary, Croatia, Bosnia. I don't think we were in Germany. We played in Kosovo, and literally when we were in Kosovo, Bosnia was jacked up. Bosnia was trashed. It was awful.
Just to clarify, you had the gig now?
What's that?
You said you were going to sub for the guy, but then you're touring?
Well, I had subbed for the guy, but Sam said to me, he goes, it's your gig if you want it, and we go to Europe. And so
there you go.
Right. So sorry.
No, I'm on the same. I just want to get on the same page.
Yeah. So I had subbed the gigs, and then I didn't get the gig. I was just going to sub. He called me up, said his drummer left, his guitar player left, and he had a tour. And it was my gig if I wanted it. And so
that was the opportunity.
That was the opportunity. So I jumped in. We went over to Europe. And when we got to Kosovo, it wasn't just, I mean, Bosnia and Hungary not so much, but Bosnia was a complete war-torn country. It was trashed. But when we got to Kosovo, I had never, ever, you can't imagine what the destruction was like, to see literally train cars sticking out of the ground and twisted. It was amazing. It was so sad. And we played all through all through there, playing for the troops. And I remember we were in Kosovo, and I said this in an interview the other day for Gretsch. I think it was Camp Bondsteel. I'm not 100% sure. It was a NATO base, and what a NATO base is obviously where all the the NATO forces are on that base. So there's American forces. There was Russian people. I mean, all these different forces were on there. And down in the village below us, you could hear them down there shooting and fighting and small arms fire. It was crazy. It was nuts. And so I figured if I survived that, I could stick around for another 21 years, So
Wow.
that's how I got the gig. And it's been
Scary.
everything from little clubs in front of 20 people to Cohen Stadium in Texas.
I remember before I met you, I saw flyers and advertisements for the Sam Morrison Band at the NAMM show.
Yeah.
Before I met you over at the Trick booth.
Mm-hmm.
And Bart, I got to ask you, man, I just want to come out and ask you, dude. So you're doing this, you have this established career, you're recording, you're doing music. What got you into teaching, and when did you start teaching drums?
I started teaching drums when I was still in high school. And it was, teaching drums was always something that you guys know how it is when, if you play sports, you're around sports guys. If you're in theater, you're around theater people. When you're a musician, you're around musicians. And so I was never the best drummer in my school. I was always just one of the guys that was a drummer. So I would go to my drummer buddies and, hey, how did you do that? And then some of my drummer buddies would come to me, and I'd give lessons, and I could convey a thought. And one day I worked at this chain of stores in Colorado called Von Knight Campbell, whole chain of stores. And I was a salesperson. And Von Knight Campbell's was these music stores that were in malls back in the day. And half of the music store was piano and keyboards and organs and stuff, and the other half was musical instruments, drums, guitars, and whatnot. There was a guy there that was a drum teacher, and he was also a salesman. And he didn't show up to work one day, and he didn't let any of his drum students know. He was the drum teacher and the salesman. And so the manager of the store, all these students are coming in looking for their lessons, and his name was Scott. And Scott goes, "Well, Bart's a drummer. Go give this kid Randy's lessons." And I'm like, okay. And so I went in, and Randy was teaching out of a book. I think it was, I don't remember the book he was teaching out of, but I just sat down, and it was just so natural. And so at first, and I hate to admit this, but I mean, it was like, okay, I teach some buddies at school, and they give me a few bucks, and I'm teaching these kids over here. It'll be a couple way to make a few extra bucks. Why not, Well, then all of a sudden it started hitting me after doing this for a while that people that were taking lessons with me were getting better. And that really stuck with me because and that meant a lot to me, that I could show somebody how to do something and they got better and they appreciated it. And that in and of itself was worth way more to me than any paycheck that they ever gave me. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not a nonprofit. I gladly, take my pay for giving lessons, but I get more jazzed from watching a student grow or watching somebody come to me. And I'm sure you guys go through this too, where you get a student. Last night, it just happened to me. I had a student, and she's been with me for a long time, and she texts me before her lesson. She goes, "Hey, I emailed you a chart." And she goes, "I want to work on Heartbreaker." Okay, so I'm thinking, I'm thinking Heartbreaker. Well, it was Heartbreaker by Pat Benatar. Right?
Go, Rick, go.
Yeah, go, Rick. Give it to us, man. That's what I'm thinking. But it was Heartbreaker. Yeah. And so I'm like, oh man, now I gotta be Myron Grumbacher, so
Yeah.
And so I'm reading the chart. And so now this is the part I'm talking about where you guys probably get this. There's a point where I'm going, okay, I'm really put on the spot right now because I'm thinking Zeppelin, she's thinking Pat Benatar, I'm thinking John Bonham. We got to jump over to Myron Grumbacher. I got to read the chart. Oh wow, I never noticed he played 1 and 3 on the top tom. I got to do all that stuff, right? And then I got to play it. Well, at the end of the lesson, she was like, "I'm so thankful you helped me with that. That was awesome." And inside, I'm still got that, okay, I hope I'm conveying my thought right. And at the end of the lesson, when she said, "Yeah, I got a lot from that," again, to me, still after all these years, when I can really help somebody with a piece of music, it just means the world to me. It really does. I love it. I love that part of it.
Yeah, that's great.
Hey man, I want that chart.
Yeah, I'll text it to you. Matter of fact, I got it. It's on this computer that I'm talking to you,
right.
and I'll email it to all you guys. Great chart. It's a really good chart. So fun song to play too.
I don't know about you guys, but I believe that that's one of the things that separates the really great teachers from the teachers that are not as great is that kind of passion and dedication and that feeling like you're getting something out of it that's filling your cup to help people, and there's a lot of guys out there who just sort of go through the motions, stay one page ahead in the book and, and what do you want to do? I don't know. But, it's teachers like you, Bart, that really have an impact on people's lives and help them along their path. So that's great.
Well, thank you for that. You know what? Go ahead, Chip. What were you going to say?
Oh, no, I was going to say I've got a list of other questions, but I was wondering if Rick has a specific question for Bart.
Well, Bart, what I've always been so impressed with is that in this time of COVID, where so many musicians are struggling, understandably, you seem to be thriving, and I think you just are so diverse in what you do, that you teach, you're recording, you're doing a lot of home recording, you're always looking into how can I thrive as a musician, and you really enjoy it, and it's just really impressive. And I think that you're more than a drummer, man. You're a sound engineer, you're a video editor, you're doing all this stuff. So I just have to compliment you on that, and you're a shining example of how to get it done right now. And I was wondering if you could just give us a quick tour of your system, your recording.
Sure.
And how you do your online lessons. I think a lot of drum teachers would want to know.
Perfect. Well, thank you. Well, thank you for those kind words.
Yeah, let's see the rig.
I think a lot of people would beg to differ as far as the video editor. Hey, I'll tell you who I got to give kudos to is the man down here, is Chip. That guy, Chip, you got the videos you've been putting together. You are a rock star, dude. And everybody, just again, watching this, I love these guys. They're awesome. Okay, so here's the rig. So I'm going to switch over to what I call the hand cam. And the reason I call it the hand cam is because, well, you can...
Now you're showing us, are you showing us the recording or the teaching, or this is the whole rig? Like this is what you're doing?
This is kind of what I'm doing here for right now. So first of all, the camera I was just talking to you on, and to answer your question, I'm gonna hold this out here. To answer your question, Chip, thank God I got long arms, right? This is kind of right now is everything. I'm doing recording here and I'm teaching here, and I'll kind of show you guys how I'm doing that. So the cameras I'm talking to you on right now is just a little hand. It's got a magnet on the bottom of it, and I've got it attached right here to a conga stand with a hinge. Necessity is the mother of invention. So
wow.
I put that on a conga stand and bent it. And there's magnets on the bottom of this camera, and it magnetically holds on, and it's kind of tilted down. Before it was just sitting on here. And so anyway, you can see my hands when I turn that camera on.
Cool.
And then I've got the same camera right, where is it? There, by my foot.
Right by your trick drum pedal.
Right beside my trick bass drum pedal.
Nice product placement.
And that Aquarian Super 2.
With no, Super Kick 1. Super Kick
1.
And I tell you what, guys, this bass drum right here, it's a 20-inch bass drum, 20-inch by 18. I don't know if you guys can tell on the internet, but from where I'm sitting, this thing kicks like a mule. So this was the camera I was just talking to you on. So that's what I call the Bart cam. You turn that one on and you see me. This one that I'm holding is the hand cam. The one I just showed you is the foot cam.
Is that a Tama clamp?
That is a Gibraltar clamp.
A Gibraltar
clamp.
That's a solid way to put a camera up, you guys.
That is. Hey, man, I'm not messing around. I beat these things like they owe me money. It's going to break.
Nice.
So I'll start with what I have on this rig, and I'll show you the microphones for the lessons. Okay, so you'll see two microphones here. I'll talk to you about the foam in a minute if anybody wants to know. This is a Kenny Aronoff trick, as well as this is a Kenny Aronoff trick. Anyway, this is the mic that you hear right there. Okay, and then there's the mic that is on the stand right there in front of the kick drum. That one is this mic that you hear here, and then everything else is captured by. There's three overheads. This one right here is the one where you'll hear the toms, and then the mic I'm talking into. All four of those mics are going into this little mixing console here, and then that goes into the Scarlett Focusrite. Only a 2-channel here.
What's a Scarlett?
This is the Focusrite Scarlett. This is a 2-channel digital interface, and all this one is literally it's a $100 interface, and it just converts analog to digital, so it can go on the internet.
Nice.
That goes into this computer. Say hi, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
And then I have an HDMI cable that is plugged into that television right there. There you guys are again. So you're there and there. So that's the teaching rig, and then you notice here that I said microphone. So this microphone, and then all of my drums are internally mic'd. I'm endorsed by Audix, so can't really see you see everybody's reflection in that drum.
Is that a shoe?
Yeah, Kelly Shoe. I'm endorsed by Kelly Shoe. So I've got this is a D2. I found the D2. To here, don't look at that microphone because that's not an Audix. This is a D2 that is that I have found that D2s sound amazing for snare drum. I figured that out on accident. A D2 in that drum, a D2 in that drum, and then a D4 in this drum, and a D6 in the kick drum. Now those are all going into, I don't know if you can see it down there, but there's my other Scarlett that we were talking about with Jeremy right there. Okay, above the QSC. That's my other. That's my other focus.
That's the 18i20.
18i20, right above the QSC, and then that's going into my Mac, which I bought this year from my buddy Stevie D. We all, if you guys don't know Stevie D, he plays for, oh my God, you name it. He plays for Crosby, Stills, and Nash. He plays for Don Felder. He plays for what's that band, Pink Floyd? You ever heard of them?
Mm-hmm.
A guy by the name of David Gilmour. He plays for them.
Oh yeah, I think I've heard of them.
Yeah, you've heard of them. So anyway,
Yeah.
that's that. And so anyway, I bought that computer from him. He bought a new computer, and so that's a computer I bought from him. That's specifically, I get on the internet and send emails and stuff from there, but that literally is just my recording rig, and I'm using Logic, and what I know about Logic would fit into a thimble. I'm learning so much, and that being said, I want to thank the drumming community, because what happened was when I got Logic and I turned it on and tried to figure it out, I'm like everybody else. I went to YouTube and I'm like, how do I work Logic for dummies? And I'm trying to figure it out. And I couldn't get this one thing to happen. I couldn't turn on some groups. And so I put something on Facebook. I'm like, help. Well, this is really cool. Jimmy Keegan. We all know Jimmy Keegan. He's played with Santana. He plays with Spock's Beard. I get this message. Hey, buddy, what's going on? So here's how you do it. And he walks me through turning on the groups in Logic. So it works.
Drummers are like that, dude.
Right.
Yeah.
I know. Well, you know what he did? He didn't say who it was. And I'm like, and he was calling I'm like, who was that? And then I get a thing on Facebook, a message, hey, check your phone message. Like, oh, Jimmy. So then I called him up. And matter of fact, Jimmy, if you're watching this, I still owe you pizza. I have not forgot. We're going to go out for pizza, I promise. So anyway, yeah, that's the way drummers are. I mean, there's not really like okay, I'm not going to show anybody how to do this. I mean, case in point, I'm here on the internet talking to 3 of the greatest drummers around the United States and drum educators, and we're doing this because we want to help drummers and help drum educators. So that's how this whole thing started. So there's my rig. There's my rig. So thank you for asking, Rick.
So are you doing most of your lessons online, Bart?
Yeah, right now I'm doing everything online, and just because of the COVID thing. And I have one person. I'm making a house call. We're in his garage. I'm staying 6 feet apart. I do want to say this. I've never been, I don't politicize things. I know what my views are, and I keep them to myself. I don't jump on social media and tell people how to think. But I will say this. The COVID thing for me is very real. Our neighbor across the street got it passed a couple of last week. And
Sorry.
Yeah, and we it is a real thing, and it's something that I've never been somebody that is scared of the monster in the closet, but all of the, knock on wood, I've been safe, and my wife's been safe, and all my friends, like in the band and everybody close to me, nobody's got it, but I do have like a number of people that I know, 6 degrees of separation, that have ended up with it, and not all of most of them have, all of them have pulled through, with the exception of 2, and they passed. And so it is a real thing. So I'm really taking precautions. I'm trying to stay online with everything and not get sick. I don't want to go through this gigantic shutdown and stop the world for nothing. So I'm being very
Yes.
cautious with it. That's just
Right
my
on.
Thanks for
viewpoint.
doing that, Bart.
Yeah.
I'd
That's
rather be, I'd rather be um, error on the side of caution.
Mhm.
it's good.
I've got a bunch more questions, but Jeremy, do you have a specific question that you've been thinking about asking Bart?
Yeah, Bart, I was reading up on your biography, and you talked about this guitar player that you had the metal band with, and then you ended up bringing into the Sam Morrison band. And
Right.
I think a lot about musicians that we play with, and I think a lot
Right.
about even famous musicians and the musicians that they play with, and all these famous pairs of musicians like Clifford Brown and Max Roach, and
Yeah.
Charlie Parker and Kenny Clark in the jazz world, and tons of guys in the rock and pop world. Billy Joel and Liberty DeVito, Elton John and Nigel Olsson. These guys that stay together and help really have a big impact on their past, on each other. And I was wondering if you had that feeling about any of the guys you play with now, like, boy, like this
Oh
guy
yeah. Yeah, for
really
sure.
helped me become who I
You
am
know,
as a player.
yeah. I'm sorry, Jeremy. I talked over you. I
No,
apologize.
I was just finishing. You're good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I gotta go. I gotta start with again with Greg, my bass player. And I gotta give kudos to him on this too. And I don't have one here. It's over in a case. I'm not gonna get it. Um, Greg is the greatest guy I've ever known. Greg is he just yes is yes, no is no. He's an amazing player. He's a phenomenal player. Um, there's never been, you know, any time that I've ever questioned his ability, his anything. He's a great guy. Same thing with Sam, phenomenal guy. Everybody in the band, that's just the way they are. They're all good people. They're all fantastic people, and I think that when you play with somebody that long, it's more of a you're not just in a band with them. You are um, you're on the road with them. You live with them. You gotta live with this guy. So and I think after that long, you kind of just know each other and you know how it works. And I think the thing that I like about the especially the way the band sits right now, before COVID, we went out and we had done some shows, and we did a run out in Laughlin. We have 5 nights at the Riverside out there, and all the shows were sold out. Great, great, great crowds, fantastic stuff, and the band never sounded better. I mean, we were really clicking. Everything. We had this new little thing that we're doing where we're sitting on the front of the stage, and I was playing percussion. Our keyboard player Walt was playing percussion. They were harmonizing, playing acoustics. It was fantastic. Um, and I think what it comes down to is this, and Jeremy, this I know it's a long answer to your question, but the thing about the musicians that I'm working with now in this band that are in the Sam Morrison band is that last week we did a video on how to get your students to practice, right? Well, musicians, professional musicians are the same way. Sometimes they show up to rehearsal, they haven't learned their song. They show up to the recording studio, they expect Pro Tools to fix them. There's those people, and I can't point fingers because I've shown up to rehearsal at times going, hey, I didn't have a chance to practice. We've all done that. I'm not, if I point one finger at them, I got three pointing back at me. But what I'm saying now with the musicians that are in the band now, they don't do that. Everybody shows up. There's no excuses. There's never like, oh, that's just a little nothing gig, so I'm just going to sit this one out. We're all in. Everybody is always all in, and everybody plays so well. And there is that camaraderie. There is that camaraderie that when you step on stage, right? When you walk out on the stage, everything else doesn't matter. I've always kind of said, I am definitely, when I'm sitting here with you guys, with these three drummers, I feel like, I'm a guppy swimming around with some whales. These guys can play. So every time when I walk on that stage, I try to give you the best Bart that I've got. I may not be the greatest drummer. There might be somebody in the front row that could play circles around me, but I'm going to give you the best that I have every night. Doesn't matter if there's 2 people in the crowd or there's 20,000. I'm going to give you the best I got. And I think that that's what everybody does now. There's not any excuses. There's not anything. And so that camaraderie is definitely, it's there. And yeah, so, and I think everybody kind of looks at it that same way. At least I'm not speaking for myself, I'm speaking for myself. So yeah.
That's a great answer, Bart. Really, that's super inspiring.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, Bart, can I ask a question?
You can, Chip. I can't wait to hear it.
You've taken lessons in the past from various teachers, right?
Yes.
Time to time.
Yes, I still do.
Who were your most memorable drum teachers and why? Who were the standouts and why?
God, there are so many.
Just give me some of the gold. Give me like the top ones that you can that you would, if you had to answer like 2, like who would it be and why?
I'm not going to give you 2. I'm going to give you 4, and I'll tell you why. Number 1 was my very first drum teacher, Rob Heskett, who runs a studio. He's part of the Drummers Education Network. He runs a studio still in Colorado out of his house called DeKalb Drum Studios. The man.
How do I spell his last name?
Heskett, Hessekt. I'm pretty sure. And he's probably going to kill me because I can't spell, and I probably just spelled it wrong. Rob
I just want to try to make sure I get the name right.
Yeah, Rob Heskett, amazing guy.
Okay.
He was the very first one. He was the one that, like, okay, Bart, here's how you read 16th notes. Here's how you play here's how you play this. Here's how you play that. He wasn't my first drum teacher, like a real drum lesson. That was Pete Capielli, but Rob Heskett was the first one. The second drum teacher was, and I still call him Mr. Fulte, Ted Fulte. He was my junior high school band director. And nice. I was like, yeah, and I'm sure a lot of you guys, where I was when I was a kid coming up, and still as a professional musician, you get filled with insecurity, like, oh my God, Chip Ritter is so much better than me.
Watch out now.
You have those things, right? Mr. Fulte was the guy that was like, and you'll love hearing this, Chip. He was like, look, be the showman, be the guy, do this, do that.
Yeah.
People love that. Be that guy. And he also made me realize that you can do this, just because that guy can do it too doesn't mean that you're not worthy of it. And so I'm forever grateful for him. And then nice. I took later on, years and years and years later, I'll give you the short condensed version. Greg Bissonette, took some lessons with him, and I was really bummed after those lessons because Greg, it was like I got run over with a steamroller. And I was talking to a bass player teacher buddy of mine, and I was really bummed. He goes, "What are you bummed about?" I was like, "Dude, God, it was so hard, and I couldn't play the stuff, and it was horrible." And he goes, "Well, where'd you go to his lesson?" I go, "Or where to the lesson?" I go, "To his house." He goes, "Where was it?" I was up in Thousand Oaks. So how long did it take you to get there? And I go, "It's like 2 hours of traffic, and then no traffic coming home. So an hour coming home is 3 hours, an hour lesson, and well, how much was the lesson?" I think it was like $150, man. And he goes, "And you didn't play well?" I go, "No, I couldn't play any of the stuff that he gave me. It was really hard." He goes, "Oh, are you working on it?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, that's what a drum lesson is. If you'd have gone up there and done all that, and paid him $150 and jammed with him, that would have been a waste of money." And I was like,
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, it was supposed to suck, right? So that, and Greg is, I don't know if you guys have ever met Greg, but he's so awesome and so nice, and it's like he has every word in the English language in his mouth, and he has to get it out at once. He's a great dude.
He's a cool person. Yeah,
he is an amazing person. So the best drum lesson I've ever taken in my life, hands down, where I got so much from it, and I still refer to his lessons all the time, is Ralph Humphrey, without a doubt. Here's a guy.
Wow, what did you work on?
Independence, Moeller, the big section of my book that I wrote on the independence section of the book, of the 16th notes and the triplets. The four-way independence was based on some of the lessons I did with him, and I wrote the book by mistake because I couldn't play the lessons that he gave me. Couldn't do it. So I had to literally, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? So I'd literally do these things with one note. I compiled them all and wrote School of Hard Rocks because of those lessons. I didn't even know I was writing a book when I wrote the book. And I kind of compiled it all together. And next thing you know, a few years later, after taking these lessons, I had a book because of the lessons I gave myself to get through his lessons. And he was very, he was very stern. He's like cut and dry. This sucks because of this. Okay, So you go home and you work on that element of it. But I learned so much from the guy, and he was very kind. Don't get me wrong. But he's very real. And, you got to respect the guy. Here's a dude that played with Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention, Barbra Streisand. I'm pretty sure, I may be wrong on this, but I don't think I am. I'm pretty sure that log drum at the beginning of Star Trek, I'm pretty sure that's him. Amazing individual. And he's the guy that I would say, hey, I want to do this. And he'd go, well, play for me. And I'd play. And he'd give me something totally different than what I wanted to work on. And then 6 months later, I'd be like, that's why he gave me this to get to there. He was just that guy.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Fantastic.
cool.
Yeah.
Speaking of your book, School of Hard Rocks, Bart, I had another question for you. On top of the book, do you have a set curriculum that you tend to teach young? Selfishly, I want to know this one because I have a lot of younger students. Do you have like a curriculum set up for them that you have them go through this and then this and then this? Do you have that? What would that be?
This is the way my curriculum works, and that is that I start out, if they're very like you, I have a lot of young kids. I get them through the first snare drum page of that book because it's just super easy. I don't start if they're really young. Out of my other book, Rock and Pop and Snare Drum. No, my other book, Rock and Pop and Snare Drum. I'll hold that one up too. Hold on.
And people can get these books on your website, bartrobley.com, correct?
Yes, sir, they can. There's Rock and Pop and Snare Drum.
Right on.
Okay,
Bam.
so what I do is really young kids, I'll start with like this little solo that I have in the front part of the book. I just call it Exercise 1. Whole notes, half notes, quarter note rests, and whatnot. And then, hey, you asked if I had hair, Rick. There you go.
Hey, look at that.
Who's that guy?
Who's that chick? She is ugly.
Turn the page.
Yeah, exactly, man. She needs a shave. So anyway, the curriculum, and if they're a little bit older, I don't start with whole notes. I'll start with quarter notes and eighth notes and get them going on that. And then I start them with I go backwards. I go through the same exact thing, quarter notes and eighth notes again, but this time applying the left foot. So they start building that inner clock, right? At first, they're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then pretty soon they realize 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. They realize that inner clock thing. So we get that going. And then once I get that going, and they can combine quarter notes and eighth notes, I show them real simple drum groove.
You guys hear how excited his voice is right now? This is what I love about Bart.
Yeah.
He's so passionate about his lessons.
I love it.
Right.
I love
Thank
it.
you. Thank you. But then once they can play the quarter notes and eighth notes, right? I have them play a groove, right? I have them play, Back in Black, right? So they're just playing. And they're not necessarily, I don't have them play that song. I then go to Tommy Igoe's Groove Essentials. And
Tommy Igoe's Groove Essentials.
Yeah. I'll even do that. Tommy, if he's watching this, he'll probably kill me. It's copyright. But I go to Tommy Igoe's Groove Essentials, and I go to track number 1 on my iPod. That's how old school I am here.
Mm-hmm.
And I just have them play along with Groove 1, right? And Groove 1, if you've never heard it, is this. I'll just play a little piece of it.
Groove 1, slow.
So there's no drums, right? It's all them play along with that. And then all of a sudden they realize that, oh, okay, I'm playing along with the song. And then from there, I teach them how to read those grooves, a little bit more reading all this time. All these little pieces of the puzzle are coming together. And then I go to Boulevard of Broken Dreams by Green Day. Got a great chart for it. By the time they're done with the song, they can play it and read it. By the time they're done with Boulevard of Broken Dreams, I then go to a Beatles tune. I go to Michelle, right? Another super simple song. Well, right, Rick. But it's a quarter note groove on the hi-hat, right? So they learn how to play a quarter note on the hi-hat.
That's not funny. I'm writing this down, man. Keep going.
Yeah, so, and then they also, I'll go back over here to the hand cam. They learn how to play a quarter note groove on the hi-hat. They learn how to play a side stick on the snare drum, and then I swing the kick drum on 1 and the last note of 3 on the kick drum, right? So the groove is. But being the drum geek that I am, I also say, look, if you're going to play a Beatles tune, you got to butter the bread.
Butter the bread.
If you don't butter the bread, I tell them, man, if you're playing a Beatles tune and you're playing in front of a crowd and you don't butter the bread, and Chip Ritter is in the audience, you're going to hear about it. He's going to come up and go, you did not butter the bread.
I had a drum student of mine the other day playing the hi-hat, but then hitting the snare and picking the right hand off the hi-hat against what we had just talked about. Taking his hi-hat off and hitting the snare, and I was like, who are you, Charlie Watts? And they just look at me like, what?
Yeah.
Charlie Watts.
And I was like, I have failed you as a teacher. You don't know Charlie Watts? Oh, no.
I know. And that's the other thing. You play a Stones tune, and if you play the hi-hat on 2 and 4, there's another one. Every drummer's going to be like, dude, what are you thinking?
Exactly.
And
so that's basically, you get them up and running, and you've got the quarter notes and the bass drums happening, and by then they're reading and they're in the water. That's great, man. Thank you. Wonderful.
Oh, you bet. And I think from there, the sky's the limit, because you've taken all these little things, and then, to me, most importantly, from there, it's not just a drum groove, right? It's not drumming calisthenics. It's music, and you can go play with your friends, and they're kids, so chances of them learning a Beatles song right out of the gates, maybe they've learned that their guitar player friend knows that song. If not, then Green, whatever. You get these things. They start happening for the students. And to me, again, that's being able to connect with other musicians. That's super important.
I would say that nobody learned to play the drums so they could become a solo drummer.
Right. Exactly.
Right. You want to play in a band. You want to play music. It's a band instrument. So putting together with music, just like Rick does with his How to Build a Drum Groove plan, where you learn the patterns and then you apply them to music very quickly, and then you understand how these things relate, and then you can build on it from there. That's also more rewarding that way than just going through exercise after exercise.
Yeah, and Chip has one more question. I am going to say this, and then I'll ask Chip his question. I do want to say this, and one of the things that, to touch on what you said, Jeremy, when I was talking about playing with other musicians, you are playing with other people, and I understand that everybody plays music for a different reason, but if you are going to play, if you're not being the solo drummer, like you say, and you want to play with other musicians, just to expand upon what I said a minute ago, if you do get the shot to play with other musicians and you're just going to a rehearsal, or you go to the next level and you go to a recording session, you go to the next level and you go do something, don't be the student that shows up and goes, oh, I didn't get a chance to practice. Don't be that guy. If you're working with other musicians, don't be that guy, because nobody likes that. Everybody else has done their work and you didn't. You're just slamming the brakes on. Be ready, and blow a little bit of love into it, and it's going to come back at you big time. Chip, you have another question?
I can't help it. I'm thinking about, like, producer wise, and looking at this video, and I'm thinking to myself, like, what would I really want to know if I had a chance to talk to Bart Robley as a drum teacher and educator in the networking sense of it, I'm thinking selfishly, I want to know what's your top advice for other drum teachers or people who want to get into teaching drums?
I was going to ask
What
that
would be
same question.
Oh, that was yours?
No, it's yours, but I was thinking the same one. Sorry to
I'm
interrupt.
just saying, like, if you had to have 3 tips, best advice for other drum teachers, young and old, what would it be?
The best piece of advice that I ever got from a guitar teacher said to me, you know, number one, no matter where the student is at when they come to you, you know, very beginner or somebody that can play already, they're coming to you to work with you on something. Teach down, and don't teach down to them. Don't talk down to them. Just don't assume that they know something. You know, if you know Chip Ritter comes in, which to take a lesson from me, make sure if you're talking about metric modulation, make sure he knows what metric modulation is. Don't assume that Chip's going to know what that is.
Don't assume.
Don't assume.
Yep.
Always teach
Yeah.
down, and then because you can always pull yourself up. Hopefully, you can pull yourself up to where that student is, and get them going. Number two, be honest. If you got with the teaching, if you got somebody that comes to you and says, "Hey, man, I love playing drums, but my heart belongs to conga, and you got some congas, and I heard you teach conga, and I really want to be the next Pancho Sanchez." Well, dude, I'm no Pancho. I know a couple of rhythms. I'll get you going. I'll get you enough to where you can get going. Then I'm going to send you to my buddy Frank Ortega. Go talk
Be
to
honest.
Frank.
Be
Right.
ethical.
Just
Yeah.
send them to somebody else. Right. Send them to somebody else. And thirdly and finally, and this is a tip that I tell anybody that, and to me is this is the most important. Don't teach drums if you don't want to teach drums. If you don't want to be a music teacher, don't do it because you're going to get a paycheck. Now, at the beginning, when I said, how did I get started? I did. Honestly, I was like, oh, wow, I can make a couple extra bucks. That's great. But once I started realizing that people could learn from me, that was more important than anything, because there's going to come a point when you have a student, and I'm not being mean here, you're going to have a student that is either an adult student or you're going to have a kid that has some things going on, and they're going to know more than you, or at least they're going to think they are. And everything you tell them, they're going to challenge you. They're right about everything. They don't, and is that going to get on your nerves? How do you find out how to get around that? There's going to be a part where a student's going to come to you and they're going to have a problem, and you may not know the answer like that. You're going to have to, how do I go around this problem and make it happen? Last night when I was talking about Pat Benatar, Heartbreaker, luckily I'm a drum nerd and I know that's Myron Grumbacher and I can read pretty good. So she sent me over the chart and I'm like, oh yeah, here's how we do it. And I got her through the lesson. But there's going to come a point where you're going to be challenged. So if you don't want to teach and people get on your nerves easily, or little kids get on your nerves or whatever, don't do it. Do something else.
Don't do it.
Play drums because you love playing drums, but don't become a teacher just because you want the easy way out. Or I'm going to teach drums till I get my big break and I become, super famous. Hey, look, I took drum lessons with Greg Bissonette well after the David Lee Roth years. I took lessons with Greg Bissonette well after the Born Supremacy years. The guy has a beautiful house. He has a beautiful studio. I'm sure he's like all of us. He needs to make a few bucks. Same thing with Ralph Humphrey. I went to his house. I took lessons there. Beautiful house. He's like everybody. He needs to make a few bucks. But I don't think he took my money just because he wanted the money. He took my money because he wanted me to be the best version of me that I could be, and he wanted to help me. That's why you teach drums.
All about.
That's why you teach drums.
Thanks, Bart.
Great stuff.
That's so solid, Bart.
Thank you, guys.
Anybody have any wrap-up questions?
Coming from 3 of the most solid drum teachers I know anywhere, it means, once again, means a lot to me that you guys asked me to do the interview first. I'm blown away. Thank you guys so much.
Well, Bart, it's been really, really great to get to know you even better. I'm honored to be on this panel with you and be a part of it. And I love all the things that you're doing and how much passion you bring to your teaching and how much you care about what you do. It totally shows in the way you talk about it, man. And I admire your dedication, your spirit, your passion, and your playing too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for the inspiration, Bart. I was just going to follow up with a real quick last minute little what's next for Bart Robley online? What are you looking to do with your teaching and your playing? I mean, what's your next project?
What I'm doing right now, we're finishing up with Sam Morrison Band, working on a new album. And I promised Sam I wouldn't let the cat out of the bag, but we have one other thing that was a project from years gone past that is, I'll just leave it at that. We're working on that a little bit, so that's what I'm doing there. No shows to report, but that's okay. Teaching wise, I've been doing these master classes. Did one with Don Fimulero. I'm going to do some with you guys. I'm going to do some classes with other drum teachers. I do master classes on my own on every subject matter you can imagine. And I'm going to start a Friday at 5 fantastic fun rudimental class, and it's going to be a 30-minute class. Ooh. And you're going to sign up. It's going to be right here on Zoom. It's going to cost you $5, right? So it doesn't matter if there's one person in the class or 100 people in the class. Doesn't matter. It's going to cost you $5, and we're going to go through all 40 rudiments. I'm going to start that. I'm going to try to start that towards the middle or end of this month, if not for sure in November. I'm thinking about doing it. The holidays and stuff get weird, and I want to do it on Fridays because of the name, and to kind of market it. So there's that. And then I'm putting myself out there to record stuff for people. If you need a drummer to record stuff, I got everything here to do it. Give me a buzz, give me a call, send me an email, set up a smoke signal, whatever, And if you need somebody to really swing something, I'm going to call my buddy Chip, say, hey, drive out here, come play my drums for me because I got to record this part for a guy.
Or Jeremy, if you need
or Jeremy, come down. Jeremy's out here. Jeremy, come down, swing for me, man. Give me some jazz, man.
Thank you so much, Bart. Thanks for the inspiration.
Oh, guys, thank you. This has been an honor. Thanks. And if anybody watched this whole, thank you for watching the whole thing. I appreciate it.
All right, we'll see you guys next week. We are planning on getting these live stream events actually live. Right now we're recording them and posting them post facto, but hopefully next week or the week after, we're actually be doing a live stream where people can participate in real time and ask questions, and we can address those questions in real time. So thanks for bearing with us, everybody.
Close.
Thanks, Bart.
Part of the
thank you, guys.
Education Network, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks, Bart. Thanks, Chip. Thanks,
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Rick. Thanks, Bart.